sky, playing astronauts and rock stars. No one told us to stop it. Call us unrealistic. Adrenaline running through my veins. Like jumping out of airplanes and swimming with the sharks. That existential feeling. Yeah, I still get nervous. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How is everybody doing? I told you guys I was in hibernation. And now today it is a beautiful 60-something degrees outside and I'm sweating bolas. But I'm wearing this long sleeve shirt because mama is breaking out in psoriasis again. It's going everywhere. On my neck, on the back of my neck, on my arms. I might make an entire separate video just showing you guys what some of my journey will look like trying to get my skin clear. Anyway, last week I intended to put a video up, except that it wasn't going to be my February wrap up that I've been trying to do for the longest time, or my March wrap up, right? Because now we're in April. So the video that I just created, or I just went to the city last weekend and I had a list of bookstores that I wanted to show you guys, because what I do is that there was a book that I listened to that I read in February. And in that book, they talked about Greenwich Village a lot, and I really just wanted to explore. So what I do is I go on Google Maps. I looked up some of the locations that they talked about in the book, and I just let my little guy walk around the city a little bit to show me some of the bookstores and some of the things in the area, just so that we could explore a little bit. Now, we did get to, I think, maybe 2 bookstores, and I'll go ahead and insert my city adventures somewhere in this video, maybe even right now. Oh, you're so sweet. That's it. Welcome back. How was that? So we went to a couple of bookstores, and we also went and saw where James Baldwin used to live because, again, for February, I read a lot of books centered around Black History Month because February is Black History Month, and some of the books that I read included Angela Davis's autobiography, and she talks about Greenwich Village so much. We went to the East Village bookstore. Fair warning, the guy charges you to put on a mask. Like he wants you, well, he doesn't charge you to put on a mask. That sounds awful. You walk in, and then once you get to a certain point, he tells you that, masks are required, and that if you don't want to get a mask, you have to give him a certain amount of money. Whatever, I think it's like $1.50 or something like that. But weird. It kind of made me not want to shop there, so I kind of just left. But we did stop by that area and wanted to look around. We also went to a couple of food spots as well, And when you're in New York City, you have to get the bagels, right? And good old pizza. Now, me being from New York City, born and raised in New York City, for me, some of this stuff, I kind of just do it for fun as a touristy thing to do. Because, when you live in a certain city, you don't act like a tourist. Like when I went to San Francisco, I was such a tourist. I'm not from San Francisco, but people were walking around, this is their hometown. Like there isn't a whole bunch of, historic sites and things to see. Just like in New York City, we don't watch the ball drop, and I don't necessarily go to Times Square to film. And yeah, all of these things, we just kind of walk by them anyway. So it's nice to kind of remove myself from the city and then go back and kind of explore all of those sites and kind of see the history behind it all. I went on a whole spiel. Alrighty. So for February, my first book was the autobiography of Angela Davis. Now I did listen to this book. It was amazing. And obviously it's about the life of Angela Davis. It really focuses though on her college years and how she became the activist that she is today, and how she became part of the Communist Party. And just kind of where her political stance is when it comes to just the jail system in America and just a lot of things that are going on in our judicial system that is not correct. Now, I worked at the Bronx Criminal Courthouse for 6 years during stop and frisk. And I started to listen to the new Jim Crow and have lots of thoughts and have lots of feelings on that. So yeah, and Angela Davis, she really does touch on kind of the injustices faced inside of the prison system. So I rated this book 5 stars. It was amazing. I was fully attentive. I felt like the narrator was great. So if you wanted to listen to this book, amazing. I will get a physical copy of this. And I did have like sheets of stuff that I wanted to break down with this book, and I might do that in a longer book review. But I don't have time in this video to do that. But it is a great book. The second book that I read, and I have a little list that I wrote down here, but the second book that I read for February was The House in the Cerulean Sea. And oh my gosh, that book was so cute. Oh my gosh, I love Linus. It's rare. I've only read a couple of books where, let me not say a couple because I do like historical fiction, but there's not many books I read where the character is like, older. But they did this book so well. Like Linus is kind of prudish, and he's sent to, this island of magical children, it's an orphanage that houses magical children. I hope I'm doing this justice. I read so many books since then. Hold on. So yes, I was correct. This island houses the magical children. These are the rare breed of magical children. And Linus is just going over there to make sure that everything is up to par and that the headmaster is treating the kids correctly. But the entire story, the way that Linus, I guess essentially falls in love with these kids, it's just beautiful. You should read this book. If you're into the feels, if you don't mind, I don't know, if you're not too religious and this book will bother you because there's some things in there that, I feel like if you're religious, it might just bother you. But hey, besides that, this is a great book. It's cute. It's adorable. I loved it. And I thought about Linus for weeks. And that book wasn't for Black History Month. I just read it because I wanted to read it and it was fun. So anyways, the next book that I read was My Soul Looks Back by Jessica Harris. And I actually listened to this book. I didn't read it. I listened to it. I believe I got this free on Audible. Not sure. But I was actually really excited that I got this book because it turns out that Jessica Harris, and let me just get this right. So let me look this up real quick because I wrote it down here. All right. So Jessica Harris was somehow intermingled with Maya Angelou and Angela Davis, and she was actually married to or dated Sam Floyd. And this is how she was able to get into the inner circles and meet all these people. She definitely talks about a lot of the historic food spots in the city, which was great. It made me hungry. I was hungry the whole time I was listening to this book. So yeah, and she also talks about just how Greenwich Village changed over the years, and it kind of pushed certain population of people out for, the more wealthy population of people to move in. So that was fun. Another book that I read for the month of February, and I was on a roll in February, okay, is Jazz by Toni Morrison. Now this book was very interesting. From what I remember, it felt like I was in a dream. It literally felt like I was in a dream, like I was in a waking dream with this woman. I believe, and this is just me guessing based on, what I read. I think the woman does suffer from, some mental health issues, and she is... So it's a woman's perspective about her husband, I guess having an affair on her with a younger woman, and how she deals with that and how she copes with that through jazz, and how jazz music kind of brought them together. And I don't know how to explain this book. I really don't. At certain points, I will say, listen, reading with Tatiana always tells you how the book made you feel. It made me feel a little icky and weird at some parts that I was just like, ooh, because we're so far removed from that way of thinking, of blaming a woman for a man's advances, especially a young woman. Just certain things were a little bit icky for me, but it was well written. I read the entire book pretty quickly and I enjoyed it. So, and I don't think I rated any of these books. Let me go back real quick. So Angela Davis, I did give it 5 stars because it was great. The House in the Cerulean Sea, listen, that is a no-brainer, 5 stars. It was such a good book. And I have to make sure that I rated it 5 stars on my Goodreads, but I'm pretty sure I did. My Soul Looks Back, random 4 stars. I'm just going to say that's what I gave it, but I don't know if I did. Jazz, probably gave it 3 stars. I'm not going to lie, because I was so confused. And then sometimes, like I said, I felt a little bit icky reading certain things. Yeah. And then the next book was actually my book of the month book. And let me tell you, that was a good book. I got River Sing Me Home. Such a good book. It was about this. So basically, slavery has ended, and this woman goes on a mission to find her children that were sold during slavery. And it's like a mother can't rest. Even me right now, my kids are at an age where they, they're adults. They can take off and not answer a phone call. And that worries the shit out of mothers that care, right? We're just like, what is happening with our kids? We need to know what's going on with our kids. And if God forbid something was to ever happen, we need to know. So this mom, she needed to know what happens to all of her children, and we go with her on that journey. Some of the experiences are unpleasant, as you could imagine. Some of the kids I don't even want to give anything away, but it's a good book. I enjoyed it. I believe I gave this 4 or 5 stars. Very good. Read it. The last book in February that I didn't enjoy, and I listened to this book, it was Honey Girl. Oh my God. It was like this lesbian romance. I thought I was going to like it because I was on my little lesbian romance kick there. After, what was the first book that I read? Kiss Her Once for Me. Anyway, I think I just don't like the idea of you saying you got married in Vegas and you just woke up and you didn't know you were married in Vegas. Bleh. I don't know. I can never, if I was that drunk, I'd be passed out. Okay? I'm not marrying nobody. But, so anyways, she supposedly, this girl, what's her name? Hold on. I think her name is Yuki. Grace and Yuki. Yuki is the woman that Grace married when she was, I think, on vacation or doing something in Vegas. And it's just weird because she woke up that morning and all of a sudden Yuki wasn't there and she had to go find this woman, and they do this whole back and forth. 2 stars. I didn't enjoy it. That's it. If you enjoyed that book, you let me know. Alrighty, so now February is all wrapped up. Now we're on to March, which is Women's History Month, and I really did try to concentrate on stories of women, women's history, or books written by women. So the first book that I read that threw me for a loop, and I actually inserted a clip of a mask that I did that looked like blood on my face in my last video. But the book that I read, the first one was The Pisces. I think it's by Melissa Broder. I don't know what to say. I don't know if I'm twisted or something's wrong with me, but I found myself listening to the book like, do we all do shit like this, or is it just me? Like, do we all do weird things in the privacy of our own home and hope that nobody ever fucking finds out? This woman was weird. She went to go, I mean, maybe not weird. I use that word a lot. Don't take it seriously. Weird is my word. So this woman is going through things, right? She is like love obsessed. She's like romance obsessed. It could never be me, but she's obsessed with this guy. She needs to go to therapy. Her sister, I think it's her sister. Yeah, her sister offers her to stay at her beach house to watch her dog while she goes on vacation, so she can kind of get her, get it together, have some space to herself to reflect, go to therapy, work on herself, take care of the dog. So this woman goes to stay at her sister's house to take care of this dog. I'll tell you right now, she barely took care of the dog because she was obsessed with this damn merman that she met. Yeah, I gave that away. Spoiler, merman. She's basically making love to this damn fish in the front cover. So, bada bing, bada boom. Let me see some of the stuff that I tabbed. Like, look at the way that she talks sometimes is just funny. So she's at one of her group meetings and she says, the group cooed and soothed, letting her know it was not her fault. And I don't know, for some reason this just caught me. It was like, was anything ever our fault? And for some reason that's just so true. I just feel like in life, people spend so much of their life playing the blame game that they don't grow. Like, you don't grow. From a young child, I always thought that we were, I don't know, basically we were given a bag of tricks, right? A bag of fuck yous. Like, this is yours. These are your fuck yous. You have to deal with this shit, okay? This is your life's fuck yous. Deal with it and move on. Learn from those fuck yous, okay? And move on. We don't all look at life that way. And listen, I went through my own little blame game situation, whereas I thought when I was younger, like, life was fine. I would be like, listen, I'm not getting abused and stuff like that. My life is fine. Like, things happen. And then I came and lived somewhere else where the culture is completely different. And then I decided to victimize myself and play the blame game. And it's just like, no, I had my bag of fuck yous and I'm dealing with them. And they've made me who I am. So anyways, that part was interesting. There's so many different parts in here that's interesting to me. Like, just this void of nothingness that she talks about. Like right here, she says, could anyone be totally ignorant of the void? Didn't all of us have an awareness of it, a brush with it, perhaps only once or twice, like at a funeral for someone very close to you, when you walked out of the funeral home and it stopped making sense for just a blip that you existed? Or perhaps a bad mushroom trip where one's fellow trippers look like plastic? Could there be people on this earth who never stop for a moment, not once, to say, what is everything? The fuck is everything? What are we doing? I don't know. She's in her head. She's thinking a lot. She's definitely depressed. I will say there's like, she doesn't take care of the dog very well. She's suicidal. I'm just going to say that. And she made me realize that I need help. I need to work on myself as well. So Anyways, it was a really good book about this woman that is in therapy with a whole bunch of other women that need therapy as well, that are all going through their own crazy shit. And at the end, I just feel like there's a very powerful lesson learned. Lesson learned with some snarky comments and some fun banter, and she's just hysterical. Anyway, the next book that I read for the month of March, and I didn't even read this book, I listened to this book, and I am still visualizing the scenes from this book. I still think about the characters from this book. It's just in my head. I love it. I think it might be one of my favorite coming of age stories so far. And it is Tipping the Velvet by Sarah Waters. That book was such a good lesbian romance. Like, I think I talked my girlfriend's ear off. She can't read the book now. I've talked so much about it and about how this woman fell in love. I don't know. It's just, for the time that it was and the way that she fell in love, it felt very organic. It felt like this is exactly how it would happen. And just the heartbreak she went through, and then the love again that she went through or she experienced. It made me emotional. I was at work listening, like, I wanted to cry. And then I wanted to look up the show, because I heard that there was a British show that's Tipping the Velvet, and I looked it up just to see if Kitty and the girl, damn, I forget her name now, but I wanted to see if they looked, Nan is her name, Nancy. I wanted to see if they looked how I imagined, and they look better than I imagined. I don't know. It was such a good book. If you're looking for a great lesbian coming of age story, it goes from this girl working with her family as an oyster shucker or something like that. She does something like that. So then going off on her own on, I think she follows this woman named Kitty. Like, Kitty is like a performer, and you just see her journey and how she falls in love with her, and it's just great. It was such a good book. The next book that I read, and that one was historical fiction. I'll randomly add things like that in there. Anyway, so the next book that I read was my book of the month book, Lone Woman. Let me get my dry mouth ring out of here. Now, this book was weird. It's like historical fiction. Weird. Here goes my weird word again. Historical fiction meets horror, meets, I don't know, creatures. It's about this woman that is basically, she is trying to farm the West. Is it the West? Is it in the West? Yes, I think so. They're giving them free land, and if they can farm it and grow crops, so they can keep this land. So she's like, you know what? I'm going to do this. But she has to carry this trunk with her. And it starts off with, like the trunk kills people. Sorry, I'm scratching my stomach because I have psoriasis on my stomach too. And I've cut my nails so short, so I will stop scratching. I scratch in my sleep. Sorry, guys. You don't need to know that. But anyways, you just basically see how this woman, like, she's carrying a curse with her, essentially. And the town find out about the curse. And it's just this whole journey. I don't know how to explain it more than that without giving stuff away. I'd be basically explaining the whole book to you. But it's really just this lone woman. It's a horror. She has this trunk with this thing inside that kills people every time you open the trunk. So there's even this one person like, listen, you bring me in your house, I'm not going through your stuff. I'm not. Because, because stuff like what happened in this book will happen when you're nosy and you open people's things that you shouldn't open. So anyways, it was a good book. It was a horror. I enjoyed it. The next book in March that I listened to, and I really enjoyed this book. In the beginning, really enjoyed it. Mid-book, I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to like this. And then the end, I was like, oh, I love it. So, and I'll tell you why. I thought I wasn't going to like it because of the wide age difference between Mr. Rochester and Jane. Now, I get that this is the past, and that age gap is not that crazy. But it's just, it would seem sometimes that he is like manipulating or he's like grooming, but he's not. He's not at all. And Jane is so freaking fiery and so smart that she couldn't be run over even if you tried. At least that's what I got from the book. Classic. I loved it. I don't know what to say. It's Jane Eyre. I probably would do a whole book review on it, but it was a good book. For one of my first classics, I really enjoyed it. So yeah. Now another book that I started in March, and I intended on finishing it, but I didn't because I just didn't want to rush through it. On top of that, I think my brain said, I get blanked somewhere where I was just like, enough reading, you need a moment. So now I'm watching Spartacus all over again. Oh my gosh. Does anybody know that show? I love that show, and I have my girlfriend watching it, and she probably thinks I'm a freak. Whatever. But I'm watching Spartacus now. But anyways, the book that I started reading, I'm halfway through, is Circe. Another amazing book. I'm just having an amazing reading year. Amazing book. The only book that I didn't like so far was Honey Girl, because I gave that 2 stars. But everything else has been just great, great, great. And if you have stood this long, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I know it's been a little bit. This is the last time you will see this background. I'm in the process of moving my things. So that's probably also why I feel a little bit disoriented. And I haven't been able to sit down and really film. So yeah, that's what's been going on. And yeah, I'm such a cornball. I will talk to you guys in my next video.